Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again. I'm back with another questionable build choice in the Sentinel League, and they're still getting pretty spicy. This time around, it is the melee LA hit low life Jug, and it is probably like the thickest Jug you'll ever see, a combo of the both. So obviously it's not going to be the thickest Jug you'll ever see. My god, can they get thick? But as far as thin while being thick, yeah, it's not too bad. So as you can see, we have a very pitiful amount of life on the character, and it is low life, so the reservation is currently not shown. There is a UI option these days to turn off reservations for your mana and life so that you still have a full bar of both. That's what we're currently doing here. But the character is low life, and it's an accuracy stacking LE hit character. So the point of accuracy stacking is for attack speed from the Jug Ascendancy, and also to use replica last resorts to get the low life benefit of a bunch of damage, bunch of accuracy, and some attack speed, which ends up being pretty good weapon for scaling LE hit. Since LE hit doesn't really need very many weapon mods, it just largely wants to scale attack speed, damage, crit, whatever the fuck. And Jug gives us a lot of attack speed. Jug gives us a bit of damage reduction, and then on top of that, I help sustain brutal charges, not endurance charges this time around, thanks to the Jug. So I kind of just wanted to make a Jug because it's been a very long time since I made one, and I wanted to make one for the unstoppable node, where we can't be stopped, can't be slowed, getting a bit sick of the slows and all that, and wanted to give it a shot. But at the same time, I did come across a Skin of the Loyal. Just had a look at what looked pretty undervalued, and Skin of the Loyal with +2 proj, +1 all gems was only 6 or 7x, and it had really weird colors, so I thought, hey, I'm going to try and make something out of that, and the only thing that I could really justify was melee LA hit with Nightblade. So as you can see, it still works out. It's not too bad. Strike skills, can use Behead, which is one of the cool things, and just then had Soul Eater on the screen there, which, yeah, it won't happen too often, but Behead does steal random mods every now and again that largely benefit your character. A lot of the time, it's pretty unnoticeable and fairly meaningless, but it can be fun and it can help out. Otherwise, the character, as I said, is pretty thin in its life pool, but it's very thick in its EHP because I ended up stacking a lot of evasion, a lot of armor, got some fortify, we have one of the Jug nodes for damage reduction, sap permanently on anything I'm attacking, and some pretty decent overleach thanks to being low life petrified blood. So as of this point, level 90 or some shit, have yet to die, still hardcore viable, and have done some level of bossing and some level of mapping, and I'm gonna go ahead and try and finish off at least a round of bosses without dying and just be a pure hardcore run. So it's not always about the amount of life you've got on a character. It is a lot of the time, at least these days, you should know by now that it's what's behind that life that is more important. So we're spell suppress capped, and then very thick against all kinds of actual physical damage and all that sort of shit. And yeah, the life total hardly matters anymore. But that said, I still do try and minimize my life pool as much as possible so that we're not wasting points in worthless life nodes when they could instead be precious damage nodes. This build, however, just wants so many things on the passive tree. It's my first attempt at accuracy stacking, and you need all the accuracy on the tree, you need a whole bunch of other stuff, and trying to fix defenses at the same time means that my passive tree is all the fuck over the place, and I just can hardly get any of what I would otherwise want for extra life and a bit of extra convenient other things, and I'll show you that in just a second. This is the last piece of endgame I've tried thus far, and that's just a 4-way with all at once and extra proj, accuracy, and I believe frenzy stack. So they do get a little bit, scary, but for the most part can handle things kind of thick. So as you can see, melee early hit kind of does things, kind of not too bad. It's not the biggest build so far for what I've put into it and tried to, get out of it. I'm not quite sure it's too worth it, but well, we'll see. Otherwise, it's just a bit of a fun thought exercise as to what you can do with some Skin of the Loyals when you find the right one and try and make it work as a build. So with that, let me show you how I've built the character so far. So here's the current character, level 90 Jug, called More Accuracy Than DPS. So stacking accuracy, and at the same time, when I kind of conceptualized this, I really didn't believe it was going to be doing much DPS. It still really isn't. It's something like maybe 3 to 5 million DPS, but it is hopefully fairly sustained and fairly decent for end game content either way. So you can see accuracy is at around 27k, which isn't correct. That's something wrong at the moment. And that's because we're not using our actual main skill. So looking at early hit here, 32,000 accuracy. It's pretty tough to get much more on my current setup. I've heard that people who are accuracy stacking get something like 40, 50, 60k at the absolute highest end, but this is what I've managed to pull out, and a lot of it's coming from precision, just gear in general. So we've got accuracy on pretty much every piece I can get. Need to actually quality that up as well, and then also the divergent additional accuracy. It was cheap as fuck. I've been told that it's been more expensive in the past, but it's got 1000 extra accuracy and 4% increased attack damage per 1000 accuracy. So considering I haven't stacked it too high in the end, it's not worth a massive amount, but it is a bit of extra damage as well. So essentially I was just looking through Skin of the Loyals with good corrupts on them and see if there were any that looked undervalued or potentially on a low end of price that I could maybe do something with, and I saw this one, +1, +2, and then it's also 4 greens, 2 reds. So not very good colors for almost anything, and I was thinking I could probably still make use of an LE hit in this, and then force a whole bunch of green sockets and then a couple of reds. And what we have here is Divergent LE hit, so it does a bit of extra increased effect of non-ailments. And at a level 21 gem, it now goes up to level 31. So all of the damage for the build and for the setup comes entirely from the LE hit gem, and it can only attack with one certain element at a time. So if it's dealing fire damage, if it's dealing, there's fire, if it's dealing cold, if it's dealing lightning, it only deals that damage type when it hits. So doing the accuracy stack boots that give you like lightning damage is kind of not worth doing, because you'd only be enhancing the lightning portion of your skill, which doesn't apply to your fire or cold damage anytime you attack. So it's not really worth doing, even, I don't know, with such big accuracy amounts. So the other gems that I had to kind of force were Nightblade, Hypothermia, accuracy. I then grabbed a level 4 Empower, which is now level 6, so it's +5. Very big upgrade for the skill. And then LE hit with attacks against single targets so far, but I am a lot of the time running around with Behead and sometimes doing multi-strike. It's hard to tell which one's the best, to be honest, because multi-strike picks one of the 3 elements to attack 3 times in a row with. It doesn't like alternate every hit or anything like that, and that does mean it's kind of annoying with elemental equilibrium, which will hit with fire, apply exposure to the other things, and then you're hitting with fire twice again, which doesn't really feel that good. But yeah, with these colors, it's kind of tough to get any sort of elemental penetration in the build, because you can't use Trinity or elemental penetration gem. So it is tough to try and fix that problem, but we've got a bit of elemental equilibrium, a little bit of pen over here, and then also Scorch as our main ailment. So elemental hit loves having ailments on the enemies, and the more ailments you have, the better damage you will be putting out. So since we can't ignite, chill, freeze, or shock, you instead Brittle, Sap, and Scorch. That's still 3 ailments, and you get 10% more damage per ailment. You then still run Skitterbots, which apply Chill and Shock at all times, and that means you've got 5 ailments on the enemies for 50% more damage, and it also takes care of a crit through Brittle. Sap, bunch of extra damage reduction for more EHP, and then, of course, you've got Scorch for a lot of our elemental penetration or monster resist lowering. So this is not a setup that you can really copy too easily, or you potentially ever should, but it's an example of melee Elihit doing things in a certain world. So the Jug Ascendancy doesn't give us much in the way of things for damage, so we've got the accuracy stacking node. You then just took this for a bit of quality of life and all that, and since I don't really have a chest, this doesn't do a huge amount for armor, but a bit of damage reduction taken, and you can see that I am a little bit thick at the moment. But then we've also got the extra endurance charges and generation, and I turn that into brutal charges through the belt, and currently it's not too hard to get a lot of endurance charges. So I've specced absolutely none on the tree thus far, because it's not convenient for my build, and I've got 8 endurance charges in the build, so 8 brutal charges. That's 24% chance to deal triple damage. That's pretty hot, and that's a good damage increase in the build. So max endurance boots with an implicit, they don't cost very much at all. I think these cost like 100C for an eye level 86 base. Then just rolled them however I wanted, so I tried to get suppressed basically. I then grabbed some +1 max endurance rings. There's a lot of them out there in the 15 to 30C range with nothing else on them, so just endurance on it. I augged, regaled, and then tried to combine it with some sort of accuracy rings and stuff that I wanted on rings. And this was the better one that turned up because I really wanted some minus mana cost on my ring, and I used the Temple mod for minus mana cost, life, accuracy, smashed together with max endurance. Had to do maybe like 20 or 30 of these rings before I got the proper best results I wanted. Had a couple that I could resell, so that worked out as well. But yeah, recombinators make all this shit pretty comfortable. So we've got all these endurance charges turned into brutal charges, and yeah, it's worked out pretty nicely for gearing. Then grabbed this thing, which is just like 100C, just does some accuracy, and then really need to try to reduce my mana cost a bit and increase my reservation efficiency. So started from scratch with a helm for determination, and then just rolled it to have some suppress, and yeah, not much. Suppress and accuracy, that's all we were going for. And then gloves, had to smash a couple together, I think. I was just trying to get accuracy, suppress, and a life roll. And then went with skills, strike skills, target 2 additional enemies, so that I could get rid of Ancestral Call and Tribal Fury. I did to begin with use Oscarm gloves. They give you a lot of crit, and they fix my crit completely if you're accuracy based. But they also have minus chaos res, and then they come at the cost of everything on your glove. So I ended up getting rid of those for these, and then just had to try and get a bit more crit on the tree to make sure that Brittle was getting its entire effectiveness up. And then, as I mentioned, Replica Last Resort. These are the best in slot gloves for this sort of thing. Went on low life, 25 attack speed, 100 accuracy, and 200 damage. So if we turn off the reservation, should be able to see, or turn the reservation back on rather. Where are we? Should be able to see that we are thoroughly low life, and all my mana is pretty reserved. And that always enables the claws. If, you know, you're above low life, you actually deal no damage, so it's pretty easy to tell if you're above low life. But with Petrified Blood, you basically can't be above low life because your skills start costing life until you get back down below that threshold. Yeah, so what else do we have here? Precision, Whirling Blades, Defiance Banner, Enduring Cry to help keep up brutal charges. We've got Mark on Hit, Assassin's Mark, and Life Tap, so it just costs life instead of mana. Arrogance and Summon Skitterbots, so that's on my life. That's what's reserving my life. Withering Step, just for the Nightblade shit. Molten Shell, War Chief, Protector, and Multi-Totems. And then Determination, Enlighten, Petrified Blood, and Grace all on the mana. So it did have to do some aura shenanigans to fit all of that shit in. And then life reservation efficiency to get skitterbots on the low life happening. Otherwise, my tree, as you can see, is kind of just doing a bit of everything. We got some fortify, instant warcry, aura nodes, accuracy nodes, accuracy nodes. This is for the Strack range and a bit of extra leech stuff. More aura nodes, suppress node, and then the elusive bundle as always for Nightblade. I did need some leech somewhere for my mana and life, so I had to spec this, though I don't absolutely love it, but is what it is for now. And then still a couple more points to go, probably, you know, another few levels. Do need another dual socket. I can actually steal something from another ascendancy, but nothing really quite fits except for maybe just 40% more damage from Zerka. It would take a few extra points and all of that. But the build in the tree still wants so many things that it's hard to justify, I think. In any case, that's so far so good. The deaths are at a nice healthy 0, so we are hardcore viable and taking on some endgame and all that. And hopefully I can do a full round. Doubtful I'm going to be doing many Ubers without dying, because melee and my DPS isn't super ultimate, but we are durable. We'll see how we go. So I hope you guys enjoyed the character and the video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.